My prediction, who do I think is going to win this fight? I think it's going to be... What's going on, YouTube family? Nice one for all the love and support on yesterday's video, the Mike Perry and Jake Paul face-off. Make sure you like this video on the way in, because today we're talking about Jake Paul versus Mike Perry. Predictions. I wasn't really initially excited for this fight, but as Saturday draws closer, I'm actually intrigued into how this fight is going to go. We've got Jake Paul, who is doing fairly decent at boxing, but the competition he's fought are quite questionable. And then even when he's actually fought professional boxers, you know, professional boxers, you haven't really been challengers for him. All right, he fought Tommy Fury, a couple professional boxers, but those boxers were past the prime. Part-time taxi drivers. And we got Mike Perry, who's obviously coming from Bare Knuckle FC, smashing it right now. Kind of looks unbeatable, if you'd ask me. Mike Perry just wins. Even when he's losing, one punch from him, and next thing, the fight's over. So in this video, we're going to take a look at the open workout highlights that Jake Paul and Mike Perry had last night. We're also going to take a look at some other footage from previous fights, and we're going to try and determine and make our best guesses at who's got the highest likelihood of winning this fight. And as always, you guys comment your thoughts and predictions down below. First off, we had the open workouts last night. Let's take a brief look at how Michael Perry is looking just with regards to his boxing, because don't forget, we only see him do the bare knuckle, which is completely different than boxing itself. Obviously there's similarities, but when you're in there without the gloves on, it's a whole different ball game. So let's see how Perry looks on the pads. Perry's also looking good in terms of physicality wise. You can tell he's added a lot of size onto his frame, but he's done it properly. He's not fat. He's actually a little bit more jacked. I made the claim yesterday that he might even be running some light gear, but that's most likely not the case. He looks completely natural. Perry's boxing skills, 10-ounce gloves. Being completely honest, guys, Perry's boxing looks pretty decent here. Now, Jake Paul in yesterday's face-off did have some harsh words for Perry's boxing. He said, whilst you're doing all this close range work, all this pitter-patter stuff with your coach, I'm not going to be there for you to hit. I'm going to be at range. So Jake Paul somewhat gave his game plan away there. He was saying to Mike Perry that I'm going to be at distance, keeping you on the end of me jab, keeping you on the ends of me punches. So how you are doing this pad work is not really going to translate into much success within the fight. Now, here's the thing. This is just a bit of pad work. It doesn't really mean much. It's not really exposing much of Michael Perry's game plan. It's just Perry staying sharp, keeping his coordination going, staying loose going into the fight. 99% of the work has been done in the fight camp, and often in these open workouts, people don't really want to give much of the game plan away. So yeah, sure, we're seeing Mike Perry do all these pitter-patter punches, but we're not going to see him fight like this in the fight. We're going to see some brutality and some violence and aggression out of him. Now, here's the thing. If Mike Perry is able to get on the inside of Jake, he will be able to throw these type of punches, but that's going to be the question. Will Mike Perry be able to get on the inside of Jake's long punches, and especially that right power hand of Jake's? Now, he was able to do it with the likes of Luke Rockhold. He was able to do it with the likes of Michael Venom Page. I know that was a controversial decision that went to Mike Perry, but I think if Mike Perry can do it to those fighters, then he can certainly do it to Jake Paul. One of the biggest questions that we have is, now that he's got gloves on, will he still possess that same level of finishing power that he's had in the Bare Knuckle FC? But I think just at face value, just taking a look at Mike Perry's movements, his boxing, he looks confident, he's being playful with it, he's got good head movements. Mike Perry looks good. As you can see, look at the size of his back, he's added some good mass onto his frame there.
Hey, you got a friend? You got a friend in you?
What's going on here? Loser! It's my time, bro! Don't touch me! Don't touch me!
I think that was a little bit set up, don't you? Take a look at the first punch that Mike Perry throws on this mascot here. If you missed that punch, it's because there was zero impact right here. I'm all for it. Little bit of entertainment and a little soft punch there. And then the bodyguards step in like, don't touch him. Don't touch him. I'll give that A+ acting right there by Perry. So, yeah, I'd say overall, Perry looks decent on the pads. And we also want to take a look at Mike Perry's last fight because that's going to give us the best indication of how he's looking. As they say, you're only as good as your last fight, which isn't entirely true. But a few fights ago, he was in Triad Combat. Actually, this is quite a while ago. This was at the start of 2023. So, Triangle Ring, whose idea this was, I don't know. I think this lasted one event and then was finished. Mike Perry actually fought a boxer in this event. Now, he did get dropped, but he had a decent performance because he's going up against a professional boxer. This Michael Seals, this boxer, apparently he's quite decent these days, so it's not like Mike Perry was boxing a bum. Now, this fight was a boxing rule set with longer clinches allowed. So I think the difference between this and a regular boxing fight is that you're allowed to hold the back of the head, you're allowed to stay in the clinch, and you're allowed to throw punches from the clinch. So it's kind of like a hybrid boxing MMA fight without the kicks and knees and takedowns. So let's take a little look at Mike Perry.
MMA has won the last 3 fights. Boxing needs this in order to stay in the team competition. Wow, that was a nice shot. So, by Seals, yeah. Nice right hand, and Perry, they said it was behind the head.
So Perry did get dropped there, but don't forget, he's got better since this.
1 round apiece. I gave Perry 10-9 round 1.
So as you can see, he's allowed to clinch up. He's allowed to make the boxing a lot grittier. He can throw punches from that clinch position. And that's what won him this fight, really. Because the Michael Seals was a decent boxer from range and from distance. But Mike Perry just kept the pressure on him like this. And if Mike Perry wants to win this Jake Paul fight, he's going to have to adopt a similar sort of style to this. And I honestly think that's what we're going to see going into this fight. I think we're going to see Mike Perry in Jake Paul's face with his head on Jake Paul's chest. However, he has to avoid this style of clinching because the fight will just get broken up. And that brings me to the point of this fight might have a potential to be a bit of a hug fest. Mike Perry adopts this style and then Jake Paul just clinches up. The fight's going to get separated. Kind of like the Tommy Fury and KSI fight where they kind of clash in on each other. They end up hugging and then the fight has to get reset. I personally don't think that's going to be the case. But if Mike Perry can kind of keep that pressure on Jake, keep Jake on his back foot. We haven't seen Jake Paul fight on his back foot that much. He's usually the one pressing the action. You can see a bit of action here. Mike Perry got caught with the uppercut there. But this style favours Perry so much. And that round right there was the round that Perry won. Now here's when Perry gets dropped with a hard punch. And credit to Perry's chin. The guy can take an absolute dig.
Try to get all through these possibilities that can happen.
Oh, that was a nasty shot. We've seen this exact sequence happen thousands of times within the UFC, within boxing as well, where they both come with the hooks and the person who lands first gets the KO, or the person who hasn't got the hand by the chin gets knocked out. One of the fights that comes to mind was Cody Garbrandt versus TJ Dillashaw. They both throw the left hook, but you see in slow motion, Dillashaw's right hand is up here by his chin, and he throws the hook like that. Cody Garbrandt throws the hook and his hand's down here. And that's kind of what happens here with Mike Perry getting caught. Oh, man. And you can actually see, look where the boxer's right hand is. It's not completely by his chin, but it's up. It's at least here. So if he needs to bring it to his chin, he's only got a short distance to travel. Look where Mike Perry's right hand is. It's down by his waist and right there. So as we go in slow motion, you can see that the boxer, Michael Seals, gets his right hand up by his chin, but Perry's right hand is right down by his waist. If Perry's hand was up here as he threw that left hook, he probably would have survived that. But anyway, credit to Perry. Somehow he gets up from this punch. He recovers fast. Look at him. He's an absolute animal. And he went on to win this fight. Even just taking a look at the next couple sequences, Perry is an absolute dog. He is game. Watch him. He gets a few exchanges. Got a nice right hand there. Left hook there. This is right immediately after he just got rocked. He's in Michael Seal's face still. Perry will not quit. You have got to knock him out cold. He landed that shot as well. There was no part of him that wanted to back down or get on the back foot after getting almost KO'd like that. So what we can expect to see from Perry coming into this fight is just pure willingness to win. Perry will not back down. You need to put his lights out. Now, I can't show you too much of the Mike Perry and Eddie Alvarez fight because of copyright purposes, but Mike Perry was actually getting a bit pieced up by Eddie Alvarez. Eddie's boxing looked decent in this fight, but Perry, despite getting caught once again, he just did not stop. The pressure was just relentless. This is Perry after getting battered for the full first round. Like, unless Eddie KO'd Perry, he wasn't going to win this fight. I mean, maybe he could have won on points, but I guarantee that Perry will be walking forward the entire round, and we have to remember, this is boxing. We're operating under the boxing rule set, and one of the biggest factors that the judges are going to be looking for with regards to choosing a winner of this fight is who is putting that pressure on, who is the pressure fighter. Because if you're on the back foot all the time, especially under the boxing rule set, even if you're outpointing the other individual, there's still a chance that you could lose just because of how it appears to the judges. You have to apply that pressure, and I don't think Perry is going to take a backward step in this fight. Moving on to Jake Paul. Right, we've got to mute this because he's got Billie Jean is not my love. She's just a girl. Claims that I'm the one. Can't sing, guys. I did actually go to see Michael Jackson on the History Tour when I was younger. Absolutely incredible it was. Rest in peace, MJ. What a legend. That rant aside, Jake Paul here, looking very bouncy. And this is one thing, Jake Paul's came under a lot of scrutiny the last few years about his footwork. And he's flat-footed. There's been footage of him in the past during his fights, crossing his feet over. And he hasn't really got much footwork. But the thing is, he's still kind of a beginner within boxing terms. Most boxers have been in boxing for 10, 15, 20 years, and they've had that much time to get better at the footwork. Jake Paul is still learning, but I think Jake Paul's footwork is looking a lot better recently. You can just tell the way he's a lot lighter on his feet now. Kind of used to be a bit more ploddy in his earlier fights, and he'd just sit down on that right hand. Particularly when you take a look at the Tyron Woodley fights, Jake Paul wasn't a very bouncy fighter, whereas nowadays we see him on his toes a lot more. And I think what we're going to see in the first couple rounds of this fight is Jake Paul with a bit of a bouncy style, almost KSI-esque, dare I say. I don't want, why am I using KSI as an example of someone who boxes good? You get me point though. I think Jake Paul's style, he's a lot more dynamic now. Let's take a look at him anyway. Jake's looking good. Love him or hate him, you can't deny that he looks decent. Alright. Left hook. Now I guarantee Jake's going to look for that left hook in this fight. He will have seen that boxing fight versus Mike Seals that Mike Perry had, where he got knocked down by that left hook, and he's going to try and exploit that tendency of Mike Perry dropping that right hand. So I think expect a lot of left hooks from Jake Paul. I think Jake's going to be looking to set up that finish with the left hook. And a couple ways he can do that is he might get Mike Perry thinking about his right hand. So I think we're going to see some big overhand rights from Jake, some big right hooks from Jake, and he's going to use those right hands to set up that left hook. This is just my speculation. But also, did you notice the way Jake Paul was doing the pads then? Jake Paul's boxing from a long stance position. Look at how much space there is between him and the pad man. Jake Paul is going to look to control that distance and keep Mike Perry away from him, because look, you've got to be a fool to not realize that Mike Perry wants to get in your face. So Jake Paul, it's in his best interest to just keep Mike Perry on the end of his punches and set up that left hook, or yeah, big overhand right. And as you can see, his left hook was looking pretty sharp in this video. Now, I don't think we need to look at Jake Paul's fights. We know enough about Jake Paul, and I can't really be bothered, to be honest with you. But let's talk about a prediction. Who is going to win this fight? Mike Perry versus Jake Paul. Now, I'm an MMA guy, right, through and through. I want Mike Perry to come out here and absolutely smash Jake Paul. And I actually think if there's anyone to do it, it's Mike Perry, because he's such a dog. I was watching his interview with the Schmo before, and Perry is extremely confident coming into this fight, and I think Perry's thinking, I'm going to get in his face, and there's nothing he can do about it. And Perry said himself, he said, I'm going to bring something that you've never seen, and Jake Paul's going to be shocked by it. And I do believe that this could potentially be Jake Paul's hardest fight yet. Now, can Jake Paul get the knockout on Mike Perry? I don't think Jake Paul can finish Mike Perry. He's got a good chin, and then when he does get knocked down, and when he does get hit, he's straight back up. So unless Jake Paul can KO, flatline, cold Mike Perry, I think if Jake drops Mike, he's going to get back up and then probably start winning the fight. Or just at least he's going to keep trying to. So I think Jake Paul, it's probably not in his best interest to try and KO Mike Perry, but probably in his best interest to try and just win him on points, or at least wear Mike down. If Jake's going to win, body shots. We don't see many people exploit the body on Mike Perry. Now, it is a little bit harder as the taller fighter for Jake Paul. Punching down towards the body on Mike Perry is going to be a little bit more difficult, whereas the body of Jake Paul is going to be a bit more available for Mike Perry. So Mike Perry could set up some shots up top by exploiting the body first. At the end of the day, Mike's going to have his head on Jake Paul's chest, so those body shots are there all day for him. So you go body, body, head, and then you change sides the next combination. But one of the biggest questions that we have to try and figure out, and this is all speculation, no one knows, is the bare knuckle skill set going to translate over towards the boxing skill set, the boxing rule set? Mike Perry said, look, I'm boxing every single day anyway. 16-ounce gloves, I'm boxing every single day. And I think it's evident in taking a look at his skills. You can see Mike Perry's improved massively, but I don't know. I'm not sure. I think Mike Perry hurts people. When you look at every time Mike Perry wins, he knocks out people's teeth, he breaks orbital bones, he just hurts them or cuts them up. Perry usually wins through just grit and being harder. At the end of the day, who's the hardest guy going into this match? It's probably Perry. But 10-ounce gloves on this time, it's a boxing rule set. I'm not sure if Perry is going to be able to hurt Jake Paul in the same manner that he was able to do with his bare knuckle FC opponents. But my prediction, who do I think is going to win this fight? I think it's going to be Jake Paul on points. And I know people are going to hate me for it. People are going to be like, oh, Shaun, you just wait until Mike Perry destroys Jake Paul. And guys, I want that to happen. I really, really want that to happen. I want to be wrong here, but I'm just trying to look at it logically, okay? Jake Paul has been competing under the boxing rule set longer than Mike Perry. Apparently, Jake Paul won the sparring session between him and Mike Perry as well. Mike Perry, former UFC fighter and a bare knuckle champion. Now, although he's always boxing, it's a different rule set. The one time we see Perry do good in boxing, when he still got knocked down 2 or 3 times, he was allowed to clinch. So I think what might happen, I think there's going to be a fair bit of hugging in this fight. As Mike Perry comes in, Jake Paul's going to clinch him up. The fight's going to get reset, and then Jake's going to keep Perry on the end of his punches. I don't think Jake will be able to hurt Perry in terms of being able to KO him or knock him down, but I do think that he's going to be able to catch Perry a lot, because regardless of what you think, Perry does get punched a lot, and that's why he says, listen, I like getting punched. It wakes me up. But, as I say, those punches are going to be scoring for Jake Paul. So unless one or the other person can finish the other person, I think it might be a Jake Paul decision. And as much as it pains me to say that, I don't want it to be, but I think we might see that, because really it's a question of, can Mike Perry hurt Jake Paul with gloves on in a boxing rule set, not being able to clinch up and throw the punches from the clinch? Not sure. I'm probably leaning towards Jake 65 to 70% to win on points in this fight. What do you guys think? Let me know all your thoughts down below. Also, just so you know, I've got an app launching on the 8th of August showing you how to build muscle naturally so you can look good on the beach for your next lad's holiday. Or maybe you want to pack on a little bit more mass like Mike Perry has done for your respective combat sport. That was one of the reasons I started lifting weights when I was younger, because I was a brown belt in Kung Fu and kickboxing, and all the other brown belts were fully grown men. And at 17, 18 years old, I had all the technique, but I just didn't have the strength or physicality. So I started lifting weights, and then I noticed it complemented my kickboxing and Kung Fu massively. So if this sounds something you're interested in, then join the mailing list down below. The 8th of August, we go live. I want to push this big, guys. I want to make a massive community of like-minded men who are united by fitness and fighting. Let's go. Come on. Make sure you like and subscribe. Let's go, Perry. We'll go live for it as well on Saturday, so make sure you tune in for the Fight Companion. Appreciate you all. See you tomorrow.